Okay. I have a lot to say about Insomniac's Marvel Spider-Man for PS4. Like everybody else, this is a game that I've been waiting to come out for forever. And having gotten to spend, enough time, it's been out for like a month, to really play and beat the game, play the story, and check the combat and the web swinging. Finally ready to make an opinion on it. I figured I'll start with the web swinging because that was the thing most people were concerned about, which is fair enough, considering some of the Spider-Man games we've gotten in the past. And I will say, while it's not perfect, it's definitely a very impressive start to what's assuredly going to be like a franchise. I guess if I had to start with the cons, I'm not too crazy about some of the things it kind of forces you to do when you're swinging. For example, it's like, I guess to compare it to Spider-Man 2 swinging, Spider-Man 2 for PS2, you could hold down R2 for as long as you wanted to before you let go of the web. For whatever reason, if you just wanted to hold on the web and kind of swing around on that web, you could. This game, you kind of can't. The mechanics are really built around the idea of momentum and moving forward, and moving as like agile as possible. So the thing that I didn't care for too much with the web swinging was the fact that you didn't really have like tighter control when you're web swinging. It's just kind of like this system is kind of built for you to move fast, which is great. Like, it feels great and looks great, and I think, like I said, for a first go around, it's awesome. But I would have liked a little bit more tight control with the web swinging, if that makes sense. Another thing that I would have liked to have seen was maybe some speed boosts to the web swinging, like as you're web swinging. They did bring back the like super jump from Spider-Man 2, which was awesome. But it would have been nice to have had the option to sacrifice, I guess, a precision style web swinging for more of like Spider-Man kind of going as fast as he possibly can on a web. That would have just been nice to see, but I'm sure that's something that they probably intentionally did not do too much of because of all like the pop-ins and the loading it might have taken to have Spider-Man like go like zooming around the city. But it'd be nice to see in the future to some extent. Personally, even if it came at the cost of some of the graphics, which are amazing, by the way. Next up, as we're seeing, obviously, is the combat. The combat, to me, is probably the standout in this game. I think the combat, for the most part, is perfect. I think they did a really good job of making you feel like Spider-Man. You're very agile. Your Spider Sense definitely gives you the one-up in a lot of impossible seeming situations, which is what you would want, obviously, as Spider-Man. Again, just in the terms of nitpicking, there were a couple things that kind of took me out of being Spider-Man in those kind of combat situations, and it was just more had to do with the types of enemies. I get it from like a gameplay standpoint, like obviously, there's things you have to factor for, right? So obviously, like, Spider-Man wouldn't have something that would automatically heal him, alright, but we had that in the game, and you have to have a variety of enemy types. Completely get it, completely understand. However, that being said, it didn't make much sense to me when I'm playing as Spider-Man, and I know how strong Spider-Man can be considering who you fight in this game, and to see him not be able to, like, just deck a heavy-set thug in the face, or the fact that because Thug B has a crowbar in his hands, I can't just deck him in the jaw. The fact that they even have like a suit upgrade that allows you to do these things I just talked about kind of shows me that it was more of a gameplay decision than like this is what would happen to Spider-Man decision. And while I respect it, it's also something where it's like, look, we're not playing Batman here, right? Batman's just a regular guy who dresses up in a suit, who's well trained. Spider-Man can, lift up cars and, just do things that obviously are kind of outside of a normal strength cycle of any kind of regular guy. So to see him not be able to just like deck somebody, like I said, without that kind of power up being involved was a little to me. Other than that, like I said, it's awesome. I'm sure it will get even better in the follow-up games. The inclusion of the gadgets made it even more fun. Like, I didn't appreciate the gadgets at first. Like, I just didn't acknowledge them, but they're so much fun. The stealth is so much fun. There's a lot of things, again, about the combat and just general gameplay that's awesome. When it comes to the story, man, that story is engaging. It's not super long. It's a good length. I think it's a good length, especially for this kind of game. I don't know if there's anything I would have liked to see more of. I know I would have liked to see less of those Mary Jane and Miles Parker missions. As interesting as they were from a story perspective, they get kind of old really quickly. You know, it's not even the whole thing of like not having powers or whatever the case may be. It's just it gets really repetitive after a while, and there's way too many of those missions to justify their inclusion throughout the entire game, in my opinion. But that still doesn't take away from the story just being really, really, really good. Especially for something that's not really based off of like a movie property or anything like that. They just kind of made their own thing and did their own thing, and it's great. I know I've seen some like backlash about some of the boss battles, how they're kind of repetitive. They're kind of, you know, follow like a set pattern and win type thing, which I could see that, especially I think it was with Rhino and Scorpion. There definitely was a set pattern to, you know, how you had to fight them, and I get that. To me, didn't make it any less fun. You know, to me, probably the most disappointing boss battle would have been against Shocker, which, you know, all things considered, isn't the worst thing to happen for this kind of game. You know, overall, I'm excited to kind of see where they go from here. I hope it doesn't take till the PlayStation 5 for a sequel to come out. Hopefully Sony will give us at least a sequel before they move to the next gen consoles. I guess it just kind of depends on how quickly they plan to launch the PS5. But, you know, Insomniac definitely deserves a round of applause for making a Spider-Man game that falls into the must-own category for PS4 players. You would be doing yourself a disservice if you don't play this game. It's an 8.5 out of 10. Easily. I loved it. Great experience. Game of the Year contender for sure.